The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the bonus show. 3 exhilarating stories starting in Virginia. So there was a House of Delegates race in Virginia. And initially it appeared as though Democrats had won, the Democratic candidate had won by a single vote. The Republican in the race got a lawyer. A 3-judge panel agreed to a recount, and they now have determined that because of one ballot that had one bubble filled in, crossed out, and then another bubble filled in, that race is a tie, which not only puts that particular race up in the air, it also puts into question control of the House of Delegates of Virginia, which has been in the hands of Republicans now for 17 years. It's so funny because I recently actually read a very interesting game theory analysis of this entire my vote doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No election comes down to one vote, so it doesn't matter if I vote. Which, of course, if everybody said that, and if all those people didn't vote, then their votes would matter. Of course, not individually, but the votes of all the people who say my vote won't matter, if they all decided not to vote, then it actually would make a difference. Throw that all out.
Right.
In this election, one vote actually did matter.
And like you said, not just for the race, but entire control of the state house in Virginia. I think that means something, you know? And it's interesting. I mean, I don't really buy that argument because I feel as if, you know, you shouldn't be so arrogant as to think that your vote should count to be the deciding factor. I mean, we live in a democracy. Everyone's vote get mixed in. So using that as justification to stay at home, I don't think really stands up.
Well, and we're kind of getting off topic here, but the analysis in game theory of this is very interesting, which is that it actually doesn't matter whether the fact that it might not come down to one vote is not a valid reason for an individual not to vote. What really matters is if everybody who considered not voting because they don't feel that their vote would matter stayed home, the collective votes of all those people who doubt the importance of their vote would then actually flip the election. And thus the sort of equilibrium decision, to use a term from game theory, would be that all of those people should go and vote.
So if you're a Democrat who lived in this district and you decided not to vote, shame on you, I guess.
Absolutely.
You would have flipped the entire state house.
Absolutely. So what happens now? I believe that it's the Senate that gets to choose a winner.
It's going to be 50-50, I guess. What they're going to do is they're going to have some kind of coin toss, or they're going to pull a name from a hat. But whoever loses that 50-50 draw, which is just completely based on luck, will have the option to appeal. And I think then it goes to a revote. So presumably, whoever loses is going to go
ask
for
for
the
a
recount.
revote.
As you know, even if the Democrat wins, of course, they should just recount it or
this,
revote.
This is going to be like a special election? I'm guessing that that's how they would do it. I can't imagine that they would say, that's fine, we'll revote the next time there were local elections scheduled. That wouldn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, very big deal. And of course, we all know that in 2000, the Florida race was decided by 500 votes or so. And that's an entire presidential race.
Yes, that's right. Although there are numerous different numbers thrown out depending on what you believe happened with absentee ballots, hanging chads, pregnant chads, all that nonsense that took place. Catherine Harris, the Supreme Court
stopping the recount.
Wow. I mean, that was
a whole bunch of factors.
Whole bunch of factors.
We thought 2016 was a big race.
Yeah, 2000 was out of control. Some interesting new technology in India. Okay, India has a number of different issues. They have lack of electricity. They have lack of interior plumbing in many places, and there are a lot of new interesting technologies that are being brought. Yes, sometimes by for-profit startups, sometimes by nonprofits, but I think it's good for India in either case. Worm toilets, not warm toilets. I'm not talking about toilets where the toilet seat warms up, like Japan is famous for having. Worm, W-O-R-M. It's a toilet that has worms in it to compost and break down fecal matter. And the Institute for Transformative Technologies has found that this is particularly beneficial to women and girls in a lot of parts of India, where you can get one of these toilets installed in a home, which eliminates the lack of safety that exists for many women when they go to whatever area is designated as the sort of bathroom in some of these places, some of these parts of India. So not only is this good from a public health perspective, but it's also really good because it keeps women safe. And I think that it's absolutely fantastic.
I mean, especially if you have to go at night, what else can you do, right? I mean, you have to take that risk. And that's why even just having lamps for them is something that's going to be beneficial, I
That's
think.
the other technology, which is solar-powered lamps, because there is a significant portion of India that does not have access to electricity either 24 hours a day or even at all. And of course, electricity, very important when it's dark out, which is at night. And it's another element of safety as well. So the fact that now they are able to install some of these, it's called a proposal for rural electrification. These
Yeah.
are solar-powered lamps and lights. It's also good in terms of the fear of violence that a lot of women face in India.
And the prime minister has pledged to supply power to every citizen by 2019.
Yeah.
Which could be a lofty goal. I don't know. I mean, there's over 1 billion people in India.
It feels like a stretch goal, as they call it in the world of business. But again, it also disproportionate. Women in India really are disproportionately impacted by almost all of the infrastructure issues that they have. Women are more likely to not have access to electricity than men based on a number of different factors. Women are significantly more likely, as is the case in most of the world, to be targeted for sexual violence and gender-based violence as well. So I think that this is really great. Solar power, we often talk about solar power for powering our homes in the US and selling extra electricity back to the grid. The fact that solar power as priced per kilowatt hour has gone down over time is actually keeping people safe in different parts of the world. And I think it's great to switch to solar power in the United States, and it's great if you can get $30 off your electric bill by selling excess solar power back to the electrical company. That's
Right.
fantastic, worthy endeavor, and I support it. But we're talking about people who might end up staying alive or not being horribly attacked as a result of solar power in different parts of the world here.
And when they're proposing this, they're looking for the most cost-effective solution. So
Yeah.
it's telling, too, that they're coming up with solar power as the most viable option.
Yes.
They're not going with coal?
Not going
surprisingly?
with coal, not going with oil, not going with the burning of diesel to run lamps that keep women safe or anything like that. And when you think about it, it's kind of obvious, right? Like, can you imagine running a diesel generator connected to just a street lamp? Like,
No.
it's visually so obviously not an efficient means. And here in Massachusetts, there are actually a lot of highway signs that are solar powered.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever noticed. Those big signs with
Oh,
the
on the
orange,
exterior, right?
the orange, use your blinker, whatever. Plan winter
I
travel
tend to
early.
ignore traffic signs.
Okay, well, regardless, these are on the turnpike on the highway. A lot of those you actually see that there is a little array of solar panels, and I don't know.
I
If,
wonder what that was.
I don't
Yeah.
know if it powers it 100% or only part of it or whatever, but that's fantastic. I love it.
I think so, and just about everyone's going to come in contact with them. So maybe
Yeah.
it reinforces their idea that we have to move on to renewable forms of energy. And as far as I'm aware, we're not running out of sun anytime soon.
We've got about 1 billion years,
Yeah.
I think, of sunlight left. I think. Have you also noticed that on the sides of the turnpike? I think between here and Central Mass, there are areas that are sort of just fenced in, and it's just solar panels.
No.
You've not noticed it. I feel like you don't notice anything when you drive around.
I mean, I think I'm just focused on the road. I'm such a good
Yeah.
driver.
Maybe
I don't want to
that's-
look off. in the
Maybe that's a
distance.
good safety thing. But yeah, there are these areas. I don't know how to estimate the surface area, but fields right on the adjacent to
yeah,
the
yeah.
turnpike that are just solar panels. And I don't know what they're powering actually, but hey, I like seeing them. I like seeing them. Jill Stein is getting more and more pulled into the Russia investigation. We've talked about this before, and investigators are increasingly interested in Jill Stein in terms of her contacts with Russia. And there at this top level, there's something we haven't really mentioned, but it's kind of obvious, right? If you're Russia and you want to help Donald Trump, let's assume for a second that
Or
that's
just
the
harm
case.
Hillary Clinton.
Or harm
Which
Hillary
seems
Clinton.
a little bit more clear.
Either way, if you want the net effect to be Hillary doesn't win or Trump does, you try to manipulate the candidate. You try to give votes to the candidate that is going to hurt Hillary Clinton the most.
Or candidates.
Candidates. People weren't going to switch their vote from Hillary Clinton to Donald Trump, but Jill Stein voters are voters that are closer to Hillary Clinton on the political spectrum than to Donald Trump. So if you were Russia, you might have an incentive to try to help Jill Stein in order to hurt Hillary Clinton. Now, I'm not presenting this as an actual conspiracy theory or theory at all. All I'm telling you is that this is being investigated. We know that Jill Stein has been in Russia. I think she was actually at an RT event sitting with Michael Flynn, like this
Right, and
infamous,
Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, and Vladimir Putin. That's right. So this is being investigated, and the motive is there. If you want to hurt Hillary Clinton, you support Jill Stein. That's a great way to hurt Hillary.
I remember seeing that famous picture now for the first time of Putin sitting next to Michael Flynn.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, that woman at the table there looks suspiciously like Jill Stein, but it just must be some Russian woman, I think.
And it was indeed Jill Stein.
Yeah.
So I don't know that anything will come of this. I don't really care that much
She
about
also
it.
appears on RT a lot, and sometimes I guess it's arguable that she proposes favorable Russian policy.
Yes.
And anti-Ukrainian policy as well.
Well, but that's just because she believes, like Donald Trump, that we should be friends with other countries.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it seems like there's obviously no direct or circumstantial evidence thus far.
No.
As you would expect if you're only at the beginning stages of looking into something like that.
Yes, indeed.
But it's all just very sketchy to me, right?
Clearly, other people agree with you because this is being increasingly looked at. A number of records have been requested, and we'll see what ultimately comes of it.
Do you think it matters that much?
No, I don't. I mean, actually, let me take a step back. If Russia did help Jill Stein, the margins were so thin in some states that it may have mattered. Given the fact that Trump has been president for a year, there's not going to be a redo of the 2016 election. Jill Stein is never going to win a presidential election, and she is never really going to be a significant factor in politics, not at least with her current agenda and ideas. I don't think it's going to have that much of an impact.
I don't think it matters that much either, and it's just for the simple fact that Jill Stein isn't the president. So, if there was a quid pro quo that was offered to her,
yeah.
she can't turn around and enact on it because she's not in power, right?
That's exactly right. I think it is mostly academic at this point. Although, it would be interesting because of the anger that many Jill Stein supporters have with me about all of the different ways I've pointed out that I think that Jill Stein is not a good candidate and it was not a good idea to vote for her. It would be interesting merely to see what reaction they would have. And I think some of them would probably explain it away one way or another.
Yeah, those folks on the left who consistently deny that the Rush story is a real thing,
yeah.
Right? I think there is some overlap between them and Jill Stein supporters. So that'd be interesting.
Yeah, it would be. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's let the investigation play out, and we'll see what ultimately happens. Anything else? I guess I should mention, just because I haven't, and tomorrow's the last bonus show.
This is the penultimate bonus show.
This is the penultimate bonus show of the year, and thus, if you want one of the 2018 calendars, and I really think that this is a cool thing, the artwork in it is 100% viewer-created artwork, comic strips, and Andy Warhol-esque images, all sorts of cool stuff. We'll keep shipping these out, I would say, like into the first week of January, maybe up until the 7th or 8th.
Yeah.
So if the calendar will still be useful to you, even if you miss the first few days of January, make an order now or during the upcoming vacation, and we'll get it out to you. If you're a member, you can use the coupon code membercalendar18. Membercalendar18. And you go to davidpakman.com/calendar18, say you want just the calendar, and when you're checking out, use the coupon code membercalendar18. You'll save nearly 30% off of the calendar. And I think this is a cool thing, and thanks to everybody who's already purchased it. A lot of members have this calendar already, or it is en route to them through the wonders of the U.S. Postal Service.
Yeah, I hear some people are putting it up now, even though it's not January yet.
And does it have... No, we didn't. You know how some calendars will include... The first page is like a split of November and December.
Oh, yeah?
So you can put it up whenever you get it, and then you flip to January. This is not
a little much.
It's a little much. It's a little much. We would have needed an extra image as well.
Oh, yeah, we'd have to charge more.
Which, if we're charging per page, we would have to up the cost, yeah. So that's it. One more show, one more bonus show tomorrow.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.